Thanks for, sitting patiently and listening to a Tamil program. I'm sure you didn't have a clue on what was being talked about, but I'm sure you enjoyed the music.
Oh, you're gonna quiz me later?
Yeah.
Might be surprised.
So actually, Greg and I were chatting while you were playing the songs.
Okay.
So I was just quizzing him on how many Bollywood movies he has seen so far.
Okay,
Seems
okay.
like at least two.
Okay.
For sure. Both are Dev Patel's movies, seems like.
Uh-huh.
Slumdog Millionaire and Lion.
Lion, they're
Lion.
both classic
Yeah,
movies.
Dev Patel acted in both the
Yeah.
movies, right?
Both.
They're pretty good movies. So I mean, good choices for, for a beginner Bollywood watcher.
You're right, well, they both involve trains too, since you're talking about trains.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah, how
That's
did I
true,
forget
yeah.
that? Perfect, yeah, automobiles, yeah. So Greg, tell us about yourself. I know you represent Farmers Insurance and you've been in this business for a very long time as far as I know. You've been my
Yeah.
insurance person, go-to person. You've been extremely, sensitive to our needs whenever we have a change in relation to car plans or health insurance or whatever it is. You've been on the dot. I didn't have to wait for 5 minutes for you to get back to us. I really need to use this platform to thank you for your services. Yeah, tell us about yourself. Have you been doing insurance majority of your life?
Yeah, well,
Are
no,
you-
my whole life since I was out of the crib, no. Actually, I was a claims adjuster, Sudha, prior to starting my insurance agency, so maybe I have been doing it my whole life.
Okay.
Well, at least my professional life. But yeah, thank you again, Sudha, for having me here. Yeah, I do attune to people's needs. That's very important. At the end of the day, that's, why you have an insurance agent versus, say, a 1-800 number, right?
Right, yeah, yeah.
So you have
absolutely.
a live person that cares
Yeah,
about you.
Very
Yeah.
true, very true. Rather than talking to a machine, I call up, you pick up right away. I tell them I tell you this is a problem I have, and you're right there, and you work on it right away. Yeah, tell us what's the best way to use my insurance? Insurance is something that's talked about. That is something indispensable. We all need insurance in various forms. We need one for health that our employer covers, one for automobiles, one for the house, one for everything around the house, like say the earthquake and things like that. So could you tell me what's the best way to use my insurance dollars?
Right, great question, Sudha. So, as you know, insurance is a necessary evil.
Necessary evil, for
unfortunately,
sure,
right?
yeah.
Right, because you really don't wanna use it. And at the end of the day, when you do have to use it, then you want it to be there for you. So, the best way, I always tell my clients, the best way to use your insurance dollar is to have a good high limits of liability, especially if you own stuff, especially here in the Bay Area. Well, I imagine most of your audience are professional type people.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you're talking about trains and such. So, you have assets and you have stuff you want to protect. So that's the whole idea behind insurance. You want to protect yourself, life insurance, health insurance, and you want to protect your assets.
Mhm,
That's your
mhm.
car,
Yep.
your business,
Mhm.
your home.
Mhm, mhm.
And the best way to use that, take, for example, say a car, you have a typical car, I don't know what kind of car you drive, maybe it's a Tesla.
Not yet.
Not yet. Maybe a little bit longer. with
Waiting
radiation.
for a husband to hit the jackpot. Yeah.
They're getting those Teslas a little bit.
Yeah, actually, the prices have come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a Camry, we'll say then,
Sure.
or and the main thing with that vehicle is you want to have high limits of liability when you own a home or you own a business,
Mhm.
as you guys.
Maybe you could come a little closer to the mic. Let me check how the YouTube recording looks. Okay, yeah, please go ahead.
As you guys know, you
Yeah.
guys own your home, and
Mhm.
so to answer your question, you want to have good limits of liability so you don't lose that home if you hit somebody. I always say, driving
Absolutely.
around here, that, you hit someone on a Google bike, those.
Oh, yeah, that's very likely, yeah.
Yeah,
Those
yeah.
funny looking bikes, and they're an engineer and they're probably, they make $250,000 and they just
Mhm.
got their IPOs going out here with
Mhm.
Lyft and everything. So you want to have good liability insurance, God forbid,
Mhm.
if you hit that person. And that's the end of the day. To answer your question, you want the insurance company
High liability. Mhm.
and you want them to shoulder your burden.
Yeah.
Right? And I know it doesn't sound sexy,
Mhm.
but that's
Mhm.
what insurance is. You
Mhm.
want,
Mhm.
because, peace of mind. And that's State Farm.
Right.
Yeah,
farmers, get you back where you belong, right?
Sure, absolutely, that's their slogan, they try
Although
to-
they do have great commercials. My wife says,
Oh, yeah.
finally, huh? That was that Professor Burke. And those are true, you know that?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, with
I
the
agree.
dogs swimming in the living
Yeah,
room
right,
and
right.
in the,
And they don't care because they have farmers to cover them, that's nice.
or how about that last one where the guy was parking his like real high-end car, I don't know what it was, but.
We've seen a thing or two, that's what, that is that ad?
No, that's true, because what they tell us to do is if you have a crazy claim, send it to
Mm.
us, to the marketing. So those are actually real, like was the last one where the guy parked his car and he saw these birds, right?
Uh,
Oh,
And he
yeah.
didn't want the birds to poop on his car, so he drives it by a construction
And
site.
then the whole thing, crane falls on the car or something.
No, the cement.
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 Whoosh. Yeah, that's a true,
Yeah.
Yeah.
those are all true.
Those are
So I don't know how it got to.
Worst things that can happen, but they do happen, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, at least it makes it funny.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I
Yeah.
mean, because at the end of the day, you gotta have some fun with it, but.
Yeah, everybody understands insurance pretty much, when you come to a commercial, you gotta put some kind of a funny angle to it, even though it's not funny when you actually use it.
Right.
Yeah,
right?
when you're in
Right.
a position.
But everybody realizes that,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
still you gotta get the message across that farmers is always there,
Right.
providing your, good coverage for your needs, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So we've been
Good
hearing
point.
about, home loans going up, going down and things like, what is the general trend with, insurance?
Right. Well, you're talking, well, home loans is with interest, right?
Yeah, with
That's-
interest, with
that's
interest rates, interest
and you
rates,
know
yeah.
how the federal
Mhm.
FOMC sets rates, and then they
Mhm,
set it
mhm.
with bank rates. But with insurance,
Mhm.
so the homeowners rates here in California, what have we had in the last couple of years? In Paradise, in Santa Rosa, I mean, I know and I imagine some of your markets, even in other parts of the world, with climate change,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? We're having a lot more, I mean, the world's gotten a lot, I hate to say it, scarier from an
Mhm.
environmental standpoint. So there are a lot more catastrophes.
That's true.
And that is, of course, those are environmental factors
Mhm.
are driving up the cost of insurance
Got it,
on property, on homeowners.
got it.
But what I always tell my clients, again, it goes back to having a high deductible. So have good coverage, but if you wanna save the premium, then do some things there and just have a higher deductible. You can afford $2,000 claim. You can't afford if you don't have the home insured properly and you can't rebuild it.
That's true.
Because that's what, are you guys familiar with the Tubbs fire and the Santa Rosa fire?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
In fact, the volunteer team called Seva International, who were working very actively in resurrecting Paradise, building the mini homes for them, they were on a show recently, in fact,
Oh,
just a couple of weeks back, and they were talking to us about how bad it has been and how much they're trying to help, and people have everything else, but nobody now wants to come and rebuild their homes, but so these volunteer groups are trying to rebuild the homes for them.
Yeah.
It's very nice.
Well, it's so hard to get the material and the contractors.
Yeah.
But a lot of those homes were underinsured.
Underinsured. okay.
So,
Mhm.
and now I have to say farmers and some other companies too, State Farm, they stepped up. So what they did is that they were underinsured. So under typical homeowners, if you look at your policy, so that you along with the dwelling,
Mhm.
the home, you got personal property, right?
Right, oh,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
And so what they did, farmers, is they took the personal property, even though they didn't have, say they had $200,000 on, without trying to bore you guys here, say they had $200,000 in property,
Mhm.
personal property coverage. They added that to the dwelling coverage. And they used that personal property coverage. Let's say the person, we'll just say Mr. and Mrs. X,
Mhm.
had truly 50,000 in contents and furniture, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
Say their home was insured for 300 and the home burned down, it cost 500 to rebuild it. And they had 200,000 in personal property coverage, but they only really had 50,000 in actual contents. You guys following me
Yeah,
on that?
yeah.
Okay. They used all of the farmers said, hey, we'll let you use all of your personal property
Okay.
coverage and
Mm.
we'll add it to your dwelling. So
That's
that's
very
at
nice.
the end of the day why I like working for
That's very nice,
farmers.
that's got a personal touch to, because you understand that they are stranded, they need help, and
Right.
you break all the barriers to go around.
Right, because they're underinsured.
Yeah.
So what, I was talking to an insurance agent, there, and he said after that, he really made sure,
Mhm.
you know, that his clients were well covered. Well, you don't wanna do it afterwards.
Oh,
Right.
So I do it, you know, unfortunately, thank God we haven't had a major catastrophe here in Santa Clara. This is where we're at
Yeah,
here, where
yeah.
you broadcast from.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so I'm doing that now proactively. I'm going through all my clients and
That's really
making
nice.
sure.
That's really nice, okay, yeah.
I cover that with
Yeah. So how can I get my rates to go down?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you know, that's why that competitor, what's that one with the lizard? You know?
Geico.
I mean, at the end of the day, it is.
How are they able to even give such a cheap insurance? I'm surprised, I'm sure there's a catch behind that.
Well, I mean, let's be
Isn't there
honest.
something farmers can do in 14 minutes to?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
15 minutes can
Yeah.
save you 15% of
There you
life
go.
insurance, okay.
So, you know, part of it, let's face it, they don't have a middle person. They don't,
Hmm.
so
Cutting,
it,
oh, okay.
now, the problem is if you click the wrong thing when you're on your keyboard and you get 15,000 instead of 150,000, and you get an well, then, you know, as good as they are, as cheap as they are, they're only gonna give you 15,000 in coverage. So, do that online, but that's you know, one of the ways they do it. But the other way, if you work with a live person, right, is again, talk with that agent, you know, and ask them, hey, the best way to get your rates down is a high deductible. The other way to get your rates down is, so insurance rates are based on, in California, I won't bore you with it, but there's a proposition, I think it was Prop 103 or Prop 13, I think it's Prop 103, 13 was property tax.
Yeah.
Prop 103, the insurance, Department of Insurance said there's 3 primary factors that are gonna affect rates in California. Years of driving, okay, so when you got your license, it could be here in the United States or foreign, and you can use your foreign once you
Driving
can
history,
use
okay.
driving history, I believe, now don't quote me here because I'm not at the Department of Insurance, I think it's once you're here 18 months, then you can use, if it's continuous, your prior driving history from
Okay.
in another country. I believe it's 18 months.
Okay.
So it's driving history, either
Mhm.
here, abroad, or here.
Mhm.
It's how many miles you drive your car. I mean, the more you drive it, then obviously you can have a greater chance.
Mhm.
So look at your deck page, your declaration, and if it shows you're driving 20, if the company thinks you're driving 20 and you're only driving 6 or 7, let them know that.
Okay.
Because that will keep the rates or lower your rates. And I
Okay.
tell that to my clients, hey,
Okay.
the car's showing you're driving 20,000, how many miles are you driving?
Actually driving.
And if you're
okay.
driving 7 or 8,000,
Mm.
let's change that.
Mm.
And then the final one, of course, your driving record. I mean, if you have a
That's
good,
good.
clean record, that means you're profitable, right?
Yeah, that's
You're
a-
giving the insurance company money and you're not having those claims. I mean, at the end of the day, they're in,
All those things matter, yeah, put together, yeah.
right,
Okay.
that's what
I
really
agree,
brings
I
your
agree.
rates
Mhm,
down
mhm.
for auto.
So, I know we touched some on automobile and we did touch on the home insurance also. I was going to ask you about collision control. I mean, what should I actually carry? Should someone carry collision on an older car? Is that needed at all?
Right, yeah, it's a great question, Sudha. And then what is collision coverage, you know? People always ask,
For older car, especially for newer
If
car,
I
it
take
makes
off-
sense, yeah.
but if I take off collision, what am I doing when I take off? So what happens if you take off collision coverage?
I
What does that
pay.
mean?
I pay.
Pay what?
I pay the other guy's insurance.
No.
Mm.
So a lot of people get confused on that.
Okay.
So collision insurance, I always say if you hit a pole, it's not the pole's fault, and the pole didn't get damaged.
So it's not, okay, it doesn't have to be another car, okay.
Well, no, I'm explaining collision.
Yeah,
yeah,
okay.
So let's say you back into a pole, it's not the pole's fault.
Sure.
So you're gonna have to use your insurance. You have collision coverage, let's say again, you have a Camry or a Tesla or
Honda Civic or what?
is that what you drive on, the Civic?
No.
Well, anyway, whatever you're driving,
Yeah.
right? Then your collision deductible, say it's 500, 1,000, then you go to the body shop and they fix the car and you pay that body shop that
Yes.
collision deductible.
Yes.
If you don't have collision and you back into that pole and you go to the body shop and it costs 3,000 to fix, you're paying the full 3,000. That's collision coverage. So the question is, let's say your Honda Civic, if it's worth under $5,000, then that's what I always tell my clients, and yeah, why have collision coverage? Use that savings and put it in your pocket,
Right.
go to wherever you wanna go, or go have a good dinner.
Fix it, yeah.
Or,
Mhm,
if you got low limits of liability,
Mhm.
buy an umbrella policy,
Mm.
right? So you own a home and you
Mhm.
get $250,000, $500,000
Mhm.
underlying on your car insurance. Well, get $1 million, $2 million umbrella, especially if you just, your company
Mhm.
went to an IPO and you're worth millions.
Yeah.
So in that regards, to answer your question, that's when you take off collision coverage. With the caveat, though, of renting a car. Let's say you have no collision and you're on a business trip in the United States.
Mhm.
If you're in a foreign country,
Right.
your insurance doesn't cover you in a foreign country. People always ask me that. If you go back to India and visit your parents or someone that
Mhm.
lives in India, you have to get insurance there
Mhm, mhm,
in your homeland. But say it's somewhere in the possession of the United States, which would be essentially, Hawaii, let's say, and you don't have collision coverage.
Mhm,
Well, now you back into that poll and,
Mhm.
that rental car is not covered. So
Mhm.
that'd be the only instance if you're gonna rent a car.
Got it,
Yeah, but I'd say if the car's under $5,000,
save it, yeah.
save it.
Makes sense.
Might as well rent a car that's under $5,000.
You think
They
so?
have no such thing, right?
I don't think so.
I don't
Yeah.
think so, yeah. Yeah, back to the home insurance. Not everybody owns a single family home. Some
Right.
people who own a
Good point.
condo or a townhouse. And some of these homes, especially the newer ones, have a coverage of HOA, which is the
Right.
homeowners association. Do they also need to have a home insurance
Yeah.
from you?
Great question, Sudha. That's an excellent question. So, yes,
Okay, because there are certain things that they don't cover, the HOA does not cover.
there you go, right,
Mm.
right, exactly, you got it. So
Okay.
what do you think the HOA does not cover? Oh, wait a minute, you're interviewing me.
Yes.
Well, the HOA doesn't cover,
The interior of the house.
yeah, the inside in, the
Yeah.
walls, the fixtures, and
Mm.
so I always say like.
So what do they cover? Maybe I should ask you that way. What do they cover?
The HOA, what does the HOA cover?
Uh-huh.
The walls out and.
Facing the street.
Yeah, and the roof,
Okay.
obviously, so, but the walls out, so when you have a condominium or townhome, you really wanna look at the HOA, the CCRs, but again, really
Well,
honestly,
fine
who
print,
looks at
yeah.
their insurance?
It's
That's,
signing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, really,
Just
it's,
get me
you
the
wanna go to
keys.
sleep, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, you read that,
Yeah.
and then, the attorneys write the whole darn
Right,
thing.
right, yeah.
But essentially, you want your own and it's not that expensive, and you have inside building property
Mhm, mhm.
and contents.
Right.
But here's another one that people don't get, is how about you don't own, I mean, it is, let's face it, expensive to live here, let's say you rent,
Mm.
Yeah.
okay? So
You don't worry about insurance.
you should, and I'll
Oh,
tell you
really?
why you should worry about rent,
Huh.
why again, let's say, you're a professional, you work at Google or Facebook or the Apple, and you're making $250,000 a year, and you're renting a nice house that's unfortunately costing $3,000 or $4,000.
Okay.
And I don't know, what's a good dinner you'd like to cook?
See, that's a
Hey,
trick
wait,
question.
you
Now
cook,
your-
don't
I don't like to
your-
cook.
Your husband is actually
I
listening
cook.
now.
I love to cook.
I don't like to cook. I like somebody to deliver it.
I love to cook, yeah.
Oh, you're telling me the kitchen.
Yeah, I do,
kitchen.
I mean, I make some really good stuff, in fact, I make good waffles with the buttermilk, but anyway, if you're on the stove, and let's say you
Something
have some.
happens, some accident happens.
Yeah, and the
So, but that's
oil, and the
not
home
wrong.
burns down, you go to answer your
Okay,
phone,
Okay. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Or you're putting on, Pandora on your phone, and that home burns down,
Yeah.
well, what happens now? You caused the fire, right? So who's gonna pay for it?
You have to pay for it, yeah.
Well, the people who owns the home's insurance company will pay for it,
Mhm.
but then they come back to you.
Because you caused the fire.
You caused the fire, and it's so cheap. When people rent, I say just get like $500,000 liability,
Mm.
and how much you think that costs? Say you got $500,000 liability and 20,000 contents, your stuff,
Mhm.
your furniture, clothes, your phone. Cause
Right.
your phone, by the way, if you get renter's insurance, is covered usually outside the house too. So how much do you think that would cost? Just a renter's policy like that, Sudha?
Winky, you wanna guess?
No,
No?
I've never,
You ever
yeah, it's
cooked?
been, no, I've never cooked this one. I've never burned down an apartment or another. 50,000?
Renter's insurance. renter's
No,
insurance.
rent-
renter's
renter's
insurance won't be so much.
What would be the cost, the premium?
Oh, the cost of it.
Yeah, yeah, what do you have to pay?
$500.
No, it's like $150.
Wow.
Per month?
No, a year.
No,
That's cheap.
It's just nothing.
that's nothing,
That is-
yeah.
Yeah.
That's, you can as well have it, right? I mean.
Well, again, the main, people say, I only got 5,000, I got a cheap furniture my mom gave me and, my clothes. It's really for the liability.
Yeah,
Because that insurance company, if you cause the fire,
right.
they're gonna come to you and say, hey, pay up.
Now, does this also cover any vandalizing and stuff like that? Somebody
Well, now,
stole
you
stuff?
vandalized the house, but your land, so
Yeah.
so the question is, yes, under the home, the person that owns the house is called a landlord.
Yeah.
There, which farmers offers, I offer that through that,
Okay.
and that is covered under the landlord if the tenant
Okay.
vandalizes the property. Right, and that's covered
Mm.
under the landlord policy.
Hmm.
Along the same lines, okay, you're renting, there are a couple of things, scenarios that we discussed. One is a single family home, the other is a townhouse, and you share it with your neighbor, and then the third case where you were a renter. There's a fourth case where, like me, where I'm running a business out of my home. Do I need any extra insurance?
Yes and no.
Depends on the business type.
Yeah, if
Okay.
it's a daycare, most
Ah,
definitely, yes, and it's and you definitely daycare,
Okay.
like a daycare, right?
okay,
I mean,
makes sense.
yes, if you're running like a radio show,
Right.
well, we're not in your house,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
if you were running a radio show,
It's possible.
yeah, cause let's say, I mean, what's the value of your equipment in here? Pretty pricey, so I would say, yeah, if the value, or yes, if you're gonna have clients
Mhm.
come onto your home.
Right.
So kind of a case by case, and
Yeah.
it's not that expensive to
Okay,
have.
okay. Yeah, what struck me was this renter's insurance, and it's so cheap for something that you would get huge returns, right?
Right,
Yeah, that's a
Right,
good one,
right.
that's a good one, okay.
right.
There's one question which somebody else had asked me. If I had a claim on my home, where would be an instance where the insurance company denied the loss?
Where would be an instance where they denied the loss?
Yeah.
Sudha? Sure, so let's say you have mold, of course, that's biblical, right? That's before
Oh,
Jesus,
okay.
right? Is
Okay.
mold, do you think mold's covered?
I would not think so.
Oh, I would think so.
So one says
Wow.
yes and one says no, who's right? No, yes and no on that one too, but on the quick answer is no. Yes, if you're again a landlord and someone sues you for the mold, because that's under liability, I don't wanna bore your
Yeah, okay.
audience base, that's under section 2,
Mhm.
cause the third party
Mhm.
is suing you.
Mhm.
First party coverage, your own house and it's you, no. So first party coverage, usually not, unless it's a sudden accidental busting of a water pipe. But so to answer your question, usually the claims that are not covered
Mhm.
under property insurance is a slow leak. So, and people are upset, hey, I've been paying insurance all these years and now I had the slow leak and I got mold and the contractor comes and he rips the hole outside the dishwasher
Mhm.
and, it's got, this whole flooring needs to be replaced. But the problem is, the plumber says, it's been leaking here for 6 months,
Mhm.
then it's not
Mhm.
covered.
Mhm.
And that's a standard,
Mhm.
that's all the insurance companies.
Mhm.
And the way to look at it, the way I look at it, it's not a maintenance. If you can think of insurance,
Mhm.
it's not a maintenance policy. It's kind of like your car, if the tires get worn out, you don't get from your insurance company, get new tires. It's kind of the same thing. It has to be a sudden and accidental loss caused by a peril like a fire or a
Something
busted water pipe.
that's not preventable, right?
Something that's not preventable.
But,
I mean, in
you know,
the sense, it doesn't come under maintenance,
Right.
There are certain things,
Yeah.
basically what insurance company is telling you is, if there's a leak, you've had sufficient time to have found that out and take preventive action.
Well, sometimes you can't find it out.
Yeah, sometimes they can't.
Sometimes
How
you
do you
can't.
find this out?
Sometimes you can't find it out.
Yeah,
It's
slow leak,
So,
for
so I
example.
get when a client calls and they're upset, hey, man,
Yeah.
I've had this leak for 6 months and the insurance, it's contractual, and the reason the insurance company does not cover it is because if they did those type of claims, You think your insurance is
You cannot draw
expensive
them,
now?
yeah.
It'd be it'd be too expensive. So they have to draw a line in the sand.
Mhm.
And that's the main reason. And at the end of the day, it's not gonna burn your house down.
Right.
It's not gonna be
It's
something
not
that's.
fatal, yeah, at least,
Yeah, and it's not like a busted water pipe and your house is flooded.
Got
You know,
it.
sudden busted water pipe and you gotta do $30,000, $40,000, and those are most of your claims. It's not the fires, fortunately, it's these $30,000, $40,000
Yeah.
busted water pipe. The other one that's not covered is termites.
I was gonna ask you, because,
Mm.
I think I'm seeing a pattern here, a slow death, like a
Yeah.
mold and a,
Yeah.
and a,
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
one, all
that's a
these
good way to
things,
look
yeah.
at it, slow down.
A slow death is
Sure.
something that insurance is not covered, it's only a dramatic death that you would cover.
Yeah, there you go, slow down, that's right. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Similar to what you said in trying to do the mold and, what was the other one that you said?
Water pipes bursting.
Water pipe is covered, but I think the termites that you're not covered.
Termites.
Are there equivalent auto claims that can be denied by,
On an
not
auto-
just by auto, not just by farmers, but in general?
Right, yeah, don't pick on farmers.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're all pretty standard, actually.
Right.
All the contracts are standard. On the auto side, what would be a non-covered claim?
Mhm.
More on a liability, first party, if you got comprehensive and collision, pretty much everything's covered except wear and tear, but you know that, right? Your tires get old or you have a mechanical breakdown. But pretty much if you have comprehensive and collision, what would not be, cracked windshields covered. It's
Yeah.
the liability, okay, again, let's go back to a car, unless it is a Tesla or some other high-end, well, a lot of these cars are 100 grand, Ferrari, but, let's say you got 15 or 20 grand in a car. That's not gonna bankrupt you, that's not, at the end of the day, why I sleep good at night is I make sure my clients aren't gonna hopefully be bankrupt,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And they're gonna be able to continue on with their lives.
Mhm, mhm.
So what's really important, Sue, is to have good liability insurance and to make sure all the drivers are listed. So sometimes where a claim may not be covered is if you have a driver driving that car
Not
that
officially
lives.
officiating to, he was not listed as part of the driving.
Right,
the
it
car.
lives in your house.
Got it.
That person has to live in
Live
your
in the
house.
house, yeah.
And if they live, and usually a kid, a son or a daughter, and if that son or daughter lives in your house and you had insurance, let's say you bought, I don't know, whatever car, a Honda, and you added that Honda and that driver was already in your house and you added a new car and that driver's driving that car, there's a good chance, and that's any insurance company, that party may not be covered because you signed a contract listing all the drivers. So you added that new car and you look at this contract and they're saying, here's all the
Mm.
drivers,
Mhm.
and you didn't list it. So that's where you really gotta be careful. And you just gotta be honest, you
Mhm,
gotta list all your drivers.
That's true.
And Farmers has really great rates, going back to promote farmers, we just lowered our rates for youthful drivers.
Very nice.
So, so they say, well, and that's because Farmers wants the household. And you know what it is too, is they wanna keep that driver, which I have, cause I have been doing it a while,
Sure.
where, now the kid's an adult and I still insure him. So it's like a legacy, you keep them long-term. And so if you get them when they're young,
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
hopefully you
sense.
keep them, right?
Very nice. Lot of wealthy information, very good information, which I did not know so far. Is there some way my listeners can get in touch with you?
Yeah, you bet, of course. So obviously, the old-fashioned way, the phone, my phone number's 408-267-5502. Of course, on the web, everyone's, online, and you go to farmers.com and just look me up. I'm not as pretty as I am here in and just, my name, Craig Goodman. So you just go to, and, we're very mobile. We have a mobile app, so
Oh,
you
good.
can do a lot of things online now as well,
Okay, very
obviously.
good,
So just,
very good.
farmers.com,
Nice.
farmers.com.
Very nice.
Type in Greg. Now, there's another Greg in Valencia. Don't type him.
Okay.
I
sure.
just have one G.
Okay.
Oh,
G-R-A-G, not two G's at the end.
Got it, great. Thank you for coming over. Thanks
thank
for
you for
sharing
having
such.
I do have one
information.
question if you don't mind.
Sure.
So, we are seeing probably, what we call a paradigm shift or whatever in the automobile industry, right? A lot of
Right.
companies are
Very
coming
good
out
point,
with
yeah.
autonomous cars and at least coming in the near future, right?
Right.
How does this impact auto insurance in general? I mean, if I were to own a car that's partially autonomous versus fully autonomous,
Right.
there's this notion, why should I even be paying any insurance? Because I mean, car knows where to go, presumably in the future, right?
Yeah, that's a great, and that is a worry that the industry has, is that paradigm shift. We're not there yet. It depends who owns the vehicle. If you own it, then
Hmm.
you need to have insurance. If the company owns it, then
Right.
they would have it. So, and I think DMV here, well, I don't wanna speak if I'm not quite certain how that works with the Department of Motor Vehicles. It's also political,
Yeah.
and I don't quite remember what they said as far as where the liability lies. So we're talking, Waymo and Uber and all these
Right, right.
companies, if you bought one of, if you're in their car, obviously, it's their insurance. So I would say if the vehicle you're driving, if it's registered to you, then you need to have insurance.
Okay.
Right? Can there's one other one, if I have it real quick, times I wanted to go over, is that earthquake, or am I out of time, or?
No, you have that.
We could
yeah.
briefly talk, yeah, for earthquake,
There's a lot
because
of-
that's a important topic for Californians.
Right,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't have it, and they're worried about the
Yeah.
deductible.
Yes,
The
exactly. Tell us-
deductible scares them.
Yeah, it's pretty high,
So the simplest way to explain that is by say a number. So say if you had $500,000 in coverage, you have a 15% deductible, okay?
Mm.
And if my math is right, that's 75,000, 15% of $500,000?
Are you
I think it
sure,
is.
so how's
I-
the math?
Tell me, what was the number?
So I'm gonna say,
500,000, half a million.
I'm gonna say 15% is 75, okay, of $500,000. So you think, oh my God, I gotta come up with 75, and this is written through this California earthquake, it's very solvent. This is the CEA, so I'm making a plug for CEA, California Earthquake Authority, state run.
Okay.
Very solvent. So I have to come up with 75,000? No, you don't.
Hmm.
You get a contractor along with and approved by the CEA, you guys agree on a licensed contractor, you get to
Right.
get the work done right away.
Hmm.
That's the
Yeah.
great thing. Now, when it gets to 225, it's a $300,000 loss, okay? 75,000 is your deductible. When you hit the 225 level, that's when you have to come up with the other 75 to bring it up to the 300.
Hmm.
But you got a
Oh,
contractor
not
working on it.
upfront, oh, okay.
Yeah, and the nice thing is too, if it's a federally, I don't know how nice it is, but it's a federal emergency, you get an interest-free loan through the SBA, that's who administers it. So
Huh.
that's what scares a lot of people is, oh, that deductible.
Yeah.
But if it's a federal emergency,
FEMA.
FEMA or by President Trump at this time declares it a federal emergency, then you can get an interest-free loan. It's a lot easier to get an interest-free loan for 75,000 than
Than
300.
to lose, yeah, exactly.
Right,
Mm.
so, in that regards,
Well-
and you get loss of use, so they red tag it. How many homes get red tagged for a myriad of reasons? And you know what a red tag is, right? Red tag?
We have
You
heard
guys know
about
red
that.
tag?
Not operational?
Huh?
Not operational?
Yeah, red tag means when the city or some agency red tags your house,
Mm-hmm.
that means you can't live in it.
Yeah, not
You-
operational, you can't use it, yeah.
You can't use it.
It's a hazard or.
Yeah, it could be on
Could
falling
be.
off of the cliff.
Off a cliff, yeah,
And
that's
so
the one
when
I was
it's
thinking
red,
about.
when it's red tagged, so where are you gonna live? Rent's here $4,000 or $5,000, you gotta live here.
Yeah,
So you get loss of use and loss, and it's very inexpensive. So when I quote earthquake insurance for my clients, I always mention it, the loss of use portion, say I get $100,000, $150,000, it's usually only a couple $100. It's kinda like that renter's insurance.
Hmm.
So, a plug for CEA,
Hmm.
right, it's a
Interesting.
good thing to have.
okay.
Interesting. Great. Thank you,
Well,
thank you
yeah,
very much.
thank you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure being
yeah,
here.
we have the recording on YouTube as well as Facebook, and we will get in touch later. Thanks again, Greg.
Yeah,
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
yeah, thanks for having me.